All right, everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Owen Tunstead, and you're all very welcome to the July 2022 Innovation Network event. You're all welcome to today's webinar, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. I just want to reiterate from past events that this Innovation Network event space is very much yours. If you or your organisation has a project or initiative you believe could benefit colleagues from across the public sector, be sure to get in touch with the team to discuss potentially presenting at one of our events. But back to today, whether you're looking to integrate human rights into the everyday ethos and thinking of your organisation, or you're looking for ways to engage more effectively with customers with hidden disabilities, or you are looking for new ways to support and engage with networks, we hope that today's session will give you something to copy and paste into your own organisation. The Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission, or IREC, is Ireland's national human rights and equality institution. The purpose is to promote and protect human rights and equality in Ireland and build a culture of respect for human rights, equality and intercultural understanding in the state. In April of this year, IREC launched the Public Sector Duty eLearning module to help public bodies meet equality and human rights standards, as well as encourage them to meet their statutory obligation to implement the Public Sector Equality and Human Rights Duty. Bernie Bradley from the Public Sector Duty team will be presenting and telling us more on this shortly. The JAM card, or Just a Minute card, allows people with hidden disability, like autism or communication barrier, to tell others they need just a minute discreetly and easily. The Court Service, as part of their continuous drive to be an inclusive and progressive institution, have integrated the card into their customer service strategy with €25,000 worth of support from the Public Service Innovation Fund. Pauline Redmond, the current Head of Communications and Media Unit and former Innovation Lead at the Court Service, will tell us more about how the JAM card is a mechanism to meet our most vulnerable customers in a way that they need most. Sport Ireland is the authority tasked with the development of sport in Ireland. This includes participation in sport, high-performance sport, anti-doping, coaching and the development of the Sport Ireland National Sports Campus. As part of its goal of supporting innovative practices in Irish sport, the organisation has developed a new Innovation Ambassadors programme. This involves the development of innovation leaders within Irish sporting bodies to lead on new projects. And we have Cormac MacDonnell, the Innovation and EU Funding Manager, on hand to tell us more about this initiative. Just before we start, I'd like to invite all attendees to submit any questions or observations to the panellists via the Q&A function. This can be accessed via the three-dotted button on your bottom right of your screen. Once clicked, select Q&A to activate, but if you have any trouble, please feel free to send directly via the chat function either, and I'll make sure it makes its way to the panellists. And finally, the event is being recorded and will be made available shortly online afterwards. And now I think we've had enough of me speaking for one day, so I think we should just jump right into it and hand straight over to Bernie Bradley from IREC. Take it away, Bernie. I give you presenter rights.
Thank you, Cormac. And I'm going to just...
Yeah, take your time.
Oh.
Perfect.
Okay. So it is my pleasure to be here with you this afternoon to speak to you on IREC's still relatively new e-learning module on equality and human rights in the public service. As many of you know, I'm going to assume, the Public Sector Duty is contained in Section 42 of the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission Act, and it places a statutory obligation on public bodies to have regard to the need to eliminate discrimination, to promote equality of opportunity and treatment of its staff and the people to whom it provides services to, and to protect the human rights of its members, its staff and the people who it provides services to. So essentially, the Public Sector Duty puts a statutory obligation on public bodies to put equality and human rights at the centre of how they execute their functions and support their staff. Just to give you a little bit of background to the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission, as well as having the obligation to promote and monitor human rights and equality within the public service in Ireland, IREC also has a role in supporting the education and training in human rights and equality for public bodies to build their capacity in human rights and equality across the service. IREC has a mandate to give guidance, to give encouragement and show public bodies the development and support around good practice, operational standards in relation to human rights and equality. IREC are a small organisation. and we have a national profile right across the public and civil service. So in the rationale for developing an e-learning, obviously a large target audience reach was one of the big bonuses. But just to identify where we went from that. So we did identify in our work the need to build capacity and create awareness and understanding of equality and human rights across the Irish public service in order to help support public bodies to implement this statutory obligation. The gap in this awareness and understanding was also identified through our work in supporting bodies as one of the big challenges to implementing the public sector and human rights duty. In our identification of need for the development of this equality and human rights module, we had some research carried out by the Human Rights Commission with public bodies. We had a high level, we have an annual bursary scheme for our diploma in human rights and equality, a high level of application demonstrating a need and an interest in learning. The significant number of queries that IRIC would receive from public bodies on equality and human rights training, either for us to deliver training or for us to signpost people to training. As part of our monitoring role in the implementation of the public sector duty, we also carried out a survey in late 2019 with public bodies, and the need for training and awareness raising and capacity building in relation to equality and human rights was the key issue. So in 2020, we committed to the development of an e-learning tool that would enable public sector staff to understand equality and human rights, but would also support them in the implementation of the statutory duty, which is the public sector duty. We worked with One Learning in the early stages that we would develop an e-learning tool that would be shared on the One Learning digital platform, and I suppose we felt that was a key piece of importance for us. So just to give you a little background of once we agreed to what we were going to do, what did we do? The first thing we did, we conducted a needs analysis with public bodies and civil society organisations. So we already knew there was a need for learning, training, awareness raising, but we really wanted to know what exactly it was. What was the need, and if we were to develop something to respond to that need, we wanted to know exactly where we were at. This also needs analysis also informed the design and function of the e-learning, because the feedback we got was very much a need for interactive, engaging content and case studies, models, examples. So as well as identifying the need for the topic and the subject matter, that needs analysis really informed of the kind of things that people who we wanted to engage in the training, what they would look for in an e-learning training. In the design of the module, we also ensured inclusive representation, and this is not just relevant to something that would be developed by IREC. Inclusive representation was that we made sure that if there was characters in any of the learning content, if there was characters or people included in stories, case studies, example, that those people were representative of society, and particularly representative of people who are protected under the 9 grounds of the Equality Act. Accessibility was also one of the key central design processes, that it was accessible on the widest scale, accessible language, accessible technology, and accessible navigation. We also then built in a pilot project as part of the development, and this was crucial to, I suppose, the finalising of the e-learning tool. We had it at what we call pilot stage. We had selected a number of people from across the public service who went and conducted it and gave us really, really informative and helpful feedback. We incorporated that feedback and evaluation at that pilot stage, and that went into back to the developers and back to ourselves to change. And then prior to the launch, we also did a road testing where all of the changes that came from piloting were adapted, but we wanted to just have one last go at the hurdles before we road test, and that again also was very, very important to share. When we were developing this, our key objective was that it would meet the identified needs that our needs analysis, but also all the work that we'd done prior to that had highlighted where the gaps were. And that gap was preventing us from, supporting our role in implementing the public sector duty. So we needed to make sure that this training fills that gap, that it was accessible and engaging, something that people would actually do, as well as and learn from it. We also developed it in a way that it could be shared with eLearning, that it was easily transferred to eLearning, and the HSE land was another one of our target LMSs, and that it was easily updated to take account of any new legislation. So obviously we were very conscious that the review of the equality legislation is ongoing. So the chances of particularly the legislative pieces of this becoming out of date very quickly. So it needed to be something that could be changed quite easily. We also wanted to make sure that and highlight to learners that this e-learning, as well as giving people an understanding and awareness of the public sector duty, it also supported the work that is linked in with public sector reform, the civil service renewal plan, because the implementation of the public sector duty meets and supports the meeting of the goals within public sector reform, the civil service renewal plan, and it also works around the improving of service delivery to our customers and also the experience of staff in the workplace. So we felt that by educating people on equality and human rights in the context of the public sector duty, we were also supporting the elements of the public service reform and civil service reform that related to equality and human rights. The purpose of our e-learning module was that we would build an understanding of equality and human rights concepts, legislation, and the statutory obligation, the public sector duty. We also wanted that it was a shared understanding of equality and human rights, and that was really important. When people starting the journey in implementing the public sector duty, this is an introductory module that makes sure everybody's starting on the same page. They all have the same understanding of what equality and human rights is, particularly what does it look like in the public service. And we also wanted to highlight that the public sector duty is a key framework that can support the achievement of equality, diversity, and inclusion in the public service. So there's a lot of strategies and plans and actions that happen around equality, diversity, inclusion, accessibility. The public sector duty is a legal framework that can support the implementation of that. The content, so just to, we have 3 units. So we focused on Unit 1, equality in the public service. Unit 2, human rights in the public service, and Unit 3, the public sector equality and human rights duty. Quickly, what you will learn, the equality in the public service, Unit 1, by the end, the outcome would be that you would recognise the key concepts of equality and the legislative framework for equality in Ireland. You will be able to describe your organisation's duties and responsibilities regarding the promotion of equality of opportunity, elimination of discrimination, and your own rights as a staff member within that. And you will have examples of issues arising in service provision and the workplace that relate to equality. Unit 2 then is that you will learn to identify what human rights are and where they come from. What are your own human rights and their human rights responsibilities and principles and the concepts that underpin them. And again, some examples and issues of human rights in service provision and the workplace. Unit 3 then focuses on the public sector equality and human rights duty. By the learning outcome of Unit 3, you will be able to describe your public sector equality and human rights duty, entitlements and obligations, the steps involved in implementing this statutory duty, and some of the practical ways that you can advance implementation of the duty. This e-learning is for all staff at all grades, at all levels, because we have included in this a personal action plan, and that personal action plan allows you to identify, well, where can I apply this to my daily work? So it's not just focusing on people who maybe make the management decisions or make the HR decisions. This is focused for everybody. So some of the key features that we feel are very beneficial in this: it's free to access for all public service staff. It's interactive, so we have used a blend of information, videos, scenarios to support people to understand. So it's not just about the text and the legislation, and it's backed up with scenarios, examples. What does this actually look like in practice? It's self-paced, so you can complete it in your own time. You can go in, start Unit 1, you can come back and pick up where you left off. You must finish Unit 1 before you can progress to Unit 2, and so on. But you can come and go out of it as you please. It's fully accessible on a range of devices. And there's knowledge checks and assessments as you go through to check your learning as you go along. And as I said, we have a personal action plan. And this was something that came back from the needs analysis that we did, where people were saying, well, it should be relevant to the daily work of the people doing it, and not just, you know, management or high level. So the personal action plan allows people to think about, well, what can I do in my work? Is that being a little bit more understanding to customers on the phone in case they need additional support, like Pauline's going to speak about, or is it about, you know, your own work in different areas? We have an Extend My Learning section, which signposts to further learning and development in equality and human rights. And at the end, you will receive a certificate of completion. And there is opportunities then for people to provide feedback through evaluations at the end of each unit. The impact and potential of this e-learning module: it supports IREC in our work to raise awareness of the public sector duty across a very large audience. It's easily promoted and easily linked to public bodies' roles, responsibilities, and statutory obligations. So we're able to make it relevant to other areas of work within public bodies and not just the public sector duty. It creates an opportunity for a shared understanding of equality and human rights right across the public service. And it contributes to the implementation of human rights and equality goals that are in other national strategies, policies, and plans of the public service. So some of the tips that we would give now that we're on the other side of it. So certainly we found the needs analysis at the beginning was hugely beneficial. It not just informed us of what the content should be, but also the design and the structure, what people would engage in. And I suppose a lot of the needs analysis was a bit of, this is what you shouldn't do, which is also very informative. One thing I would certainly suggest, that not to assume a level of understanding or awareness on any subject matter. So whether you're coming from a, you know, financial, procurement, and anything like that, we pitched this at a level of understanding where we assumed people didn't know anything, because then you capture everybody. And I think that's just something really important, because you don't leave anybody behind if you start at the very beginning and the very introductory level. Make sure the content is easy to read, interactive, and engaging. So we found that, you know, because obviously parts of the content were about legislation and policy, we tried to make it as easy to understand and as relevant as possible, while still keeping those important pieces in. Again, inclusive representation. People need to see themselves in an e-learning content. So if you have, like ours, whether it's graphics or case studies that include people, make sure they represent everybody that's in the country. In engagement, obviously we do not have an expertise in developing e-learning, so we had to contract in the technical expertise, and that was a challenge, because we were coming from a subject expert side of things. So obviously we knew very little about technical development of e-learning. They knew very little about equality and human rights. So that would be one tip, is being very clear with what you want to get out to the end user from their perspective, and ensure that changes and updates are easily applied. Piloting it is hugely important. I would really recommend piloting it with quite a large sample audience. We did a pilot and a road testing among the IREC staff, which was really good. But I would say that the external piloting probably gave us more feedback, particularly from people who we're very new to equality and human rights, and ensure there's a feedback and evaluation method in the e-learning tool, so people have a way of coming back to you and saying, I found this bit really hard. We're at the minute now, we're going to make some changes to some of the questions because we've had quite a bit of feedback on a couple of them where people found it a little bit challenging. So it's really important to have that opportunity there. I'm going to play just to give you a little feel of what I've been talking about. So Cormac, if you want, or Owen, if you want to hit that.
Sure thing. One moment.
Welcome to this introductory e-learning module, Equality and Human Rights in the Public Service. This module was developed by the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission, Ireland's national human rights institution and Ireland's national equality body, and is available to staff of public bodies. The protection and promotion of equality and human rights is core to the work of
That's great. Thank you very, very much for that, Bernie. I don't think it's any easy feat to try and encourage organisations to foster a sense of human rights and equality, and more difficult is to kind of, as you said, go in with a level understanding, because I think people already have concepts of what human rights are, but trying to almost kind of work your way through those and kind of establish what they actually are is quite, I'm sure, a difficult feat. So thank you very much for that. And I look forward to delving into a few questions towards the end.
Just on as well as that, just it is on our IREC website, but it's also available on One Learning as well.
Perfect. Thanks very much for that, Bernie. And next up, we have Pauline Redmond, who is going to talk to us a little bit about the Jam Card initiative taking place in the court service. So, Pauline, when you're ready, you should present your rights. There we go. Just can't hear you there, Pauline, if you just want to play around with the mic there on and off.
Can't hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Perfect.
Great. Hi, everybody. My name is Pauline Redmond and I work in the court service. I've been involved in innovation for, I suppose, a number of years now, and I work in the communications and media unit. And I might have misled you there, Owen. I'm not the head of the communications unit. I am a communications lead in the unit there. So, but really, I'm here today to talk to you about the Jam Cards. And I'm delighted to be here to share, I suppose, our story on becoming a Jam Card friendly organisation. Stands for just a minute, and I'll go into more detail on that in just a minute. But the project is it's close to my heart really for two reasons. Having worked in the innovation space, I know how difficult it is to get ideas across the line. And this one is a great example of how an idea from a staff member was implemented across the organisation. But secondly, it's a simple concept, but it has big impact. And it speaks to our values as an organisation to become more inclusive and more user-centric. The journey, I suppose, how the idea came about was we had a call for ideas in 2019, and it was one of the ideas that was put forward. A staff member had noticed the jam cards up in a university in Northern Ireland. The idea was selected as one of the winners in May 2020. However, when we looked to implement it, at that time the pandemic had just hit and the rolling out of this was put on hold. But then the Innovation Fund, the Public Service Innovation Fund launched, and we thought, look, the jam card would be a good idea to put forward. It was customer centric, it was scalable across organisations, and involved a number of agencies collaborating together. So we got in touch with our justice colleagues, and they also thought it was a good idea and merited, I suppose, or could be a worthy contender. And then we were delighted then to get that funding of 25,000, so that we could roll it out across the agencies. What is the jam card? It is a small card, and it is, I suppose, people with a communication barrier are often reluctant or unable to tell others about their condition. So the jam card allows people with a learning difficulty, autism, or a communication barrier to tell others that they need just a minute in a very discreet and a very easy way. But the easiest way to describe it is to look at this very short video. It's only a 2-minute video. So Owen, if you wouldn't mind, please.
If you don't have a learning difficulty or communication barrier, it's hard to understand just how difficult everyday interactions you and I take for granted can be. The Jam Card is a card and app that people with learning difficulties and communication barriers can use to ask for just a minute of patience when they need it. This could be when counting out change on a
Right, is that okay? Oh, and you can see my screen, okay, yeah. Great, and you can hear me okay. Brilliant. Um, okay, so I suppose the video itself, is very explanatory. So I suppose for the project for us, we decided it was going to be a collaborative project, as I've mentioned, and the agencies involved were the IPS, the Dublin Coroner's Court, and ourselves, the Court Service. We met on a regular basis, and we, planned out the we planned the rollout and the big bang launch we were hoping for in September. The funding we got was used to purchase the e-learning training for each of the agencies and the organisations, also used for training for champions that we had. There was online training and in-person training as well. Also used to purchase the promotional materials or the marketing materials referred to, like signage, window stickers, pin badges, all to signal that we were going to be a jam card friendly organisation. We looked to other agencies just to see, those that had already implemented the jam card, and we spoke to representatives in South Dublin County Council, the National Transport Agency, Bank of Ireland, and in Lidl. So how do you become a jam card friendly organisation? Well, as I said, from the video you can see the steps you can take, but it's administered by that social enterprise group based in Northern Ireland. They're called the Now Group. They were a great group to work with, and they really, I suppose, they support us throughout the project. They supply the e-learning packages, training packages. They supply the jam card themselves. They'll support you with your promotional material, and they were even very happy to come down to our launch event, which we had in September. One of the criteria to become a jam card friendly organisation is 75% of your frontline or your customer serving staff to be trained, to be jam card trained. But I suppose as an organisation at the time, we thought, look, we believed that this awareness training was really of benefit to all staff. And, Bernie spoke about equality and access to justice. They are key goals and key principles that the court service has. So we went about training everybody. With 110 or with 1,100 staff, it was no mean feat. But we achieved it, and we're very proud to say that we did at that stage. The e-learning course takes about 15 minutes. It's basically an awareness training module. And we know, I suppose, that most staff were providing excellent customer service, but this training, it just gives them that better understanding of the needs of all our customers. There's also training provided for champions or advocates you might have in your organisation. That's a half-day training. And you can also avail of Train the Trainer training, which you can use to have your own in-house trainings. Also then, one of the other aspects is to promote the initiative. So for us, we use posters, pin badges, newsletter articles, videos, messaging from senior managers, and all our social media channels. So why become a jam card friendly organisation? Well, I suppose it really does align with the customer service, the modernisation programme, and our strategies and our innovation strategy. Which is all about listening and engaging with users, designing for inclusion, and collaborating and scaling innovation. It improves customer service, it empowers staff to better understand our users, and actually through this project, by building the awareness among the staff have approached us for more information on jam cards for their own family members and friends. But most importantly, I suppose, it allows people to communicate in a very discreet and easy way. And as Bernie spoke about earlier, it's about promoting equal opportunity for everyone. So what worked well for us in the project? The jam card, it spans both, I suppose, customer service and disability awareness, and identifying where it sits best in your organisation is really important. For us, the owners now are our learning and development department, because of the e-learning aspect, and our access officer because of the disability awareness aspect. The Public Service Innovation Fund, there's no doubt it was a catalyst to progress this great idea. and the team were very supportive throughout the timescale. The network to support and champion the initiative, we looked at the existing court service networks we had to champion it. And we were lucky in that we had only just set up our Innovation Advocates Network. So really it was a win-win for us because we were able to give an opportunity for those advocates to get involved in a project like this. And then this network then supported the rollout of the training, which made us ready, I suppose, for launch day. I put down project management there because assigning a project manager and establishing a multifunction team really, for us, ensured that we had good governance, we were able to manage the risks, we had a great training plan and a comms plan, which now in my current role, I understand is so important. But in previous, I suppose, in trying to get some other ideas across the line, we hadn't got that project management support, and it was really essential in this project, and we really benefited from it. Making the JAM card, it's part of our induction program. We didn't make the JAM card training mandatory at the time. It might have accelerated the uptake. Certainly, we had to put a lot of effort into getting the staff trained up before launch day. But I suppose there was a feeling that there was a general appetite for improving customer service, so it wasn't made mandatory. But it's now part of our induction program, so all staff will get it. The challenges and opportunities, I suppose COVID-19 was a delay, but as I said, we are very proud of the achievement to get it when everything was so limited, to get it across the line. And like the day of the launch was so exciting because we had just come out of a lockdown, and the fact that we were having an in-person live event was just wonderful, really. And it was brilliant then to meet everybody involved in the project. So yeah, that was a great day. The timelines, so the public service funding timelines can be a bit of a challenge, but the team were really, really supportive, and they allowed us to adjust some of our timelines along the way, so we had no issues there. The uptake of training, yeah, because of the timelines, we had to roll out the training in July and August. So as you can imagine, not ideal. But again, we looked to appealing to staff, saying that it was an idea coming from the staff. There was an appetite to engage with good customer service, and we, got senior management buy-in. The e-learning made it very easy considering we were in pandemic times. So the benefits of having that e-learning package, it is only 15 minutes. That was one of the reasons. It was a challenge, but it was an opportunity to get it across the line as well. So really, I suppose just to wrap up today, it was a great project to be part of. It really appealed to everyone's appetite to improve our customer service, right from the project team, which was a great bunch of people to work with, and our justice partners, right through to all the staff across the organisation. Thanks, Owen.
That's great. Thanks very much, Pauline. And apologies for inadvertently giving you a promotion. Congratulations on that.
I'll take it.
Welcome. Thanks very much, Pauline. The jam card is fantastic. It's such a simple idea, and it has such a tangible benefit for those most vulnerable in our society. And it's just part of yet another thing that the court service are doing to try and be more progressive and inclusive. So just to commend you and your team's effort in getting the jam card across the line. Thank you. And finally, next up, we have Cormac MacDonnell from Sport Ireland. Just ahead of going to Cormac, we're going to play a short video detailing the Innovation Ambassadors network. So one moment, folks. Now, Cormac, you should have presenter rights when you're ready.
Okay, cool. I hope I can find my screen.
I have them saved if needs be, no problem.
Yeah, it's sorry for a second there. Now I don't see it on the desktop.
Would you like me to share?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, no problem. One moment.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, no problem. You guide me along then, Cormac, as you're ready. No problem. Take it away.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Well, look, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cormac, and I'm joining you today from Sport Ireland. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about the Innovation Ambassadors Programme. But before I jump in, can I just compliment and say well done to Pauline and Bernie on two excellent projects. There are two projects that I personally wasn't aware of, and I think if we're thinking about scaling and if you like, developing some of these projects, we can all bring them into our organizations. So well done on both of those projects. They're both excellent initiatives. Just from my point of view, something maybe slightly different. So I am the innovation lead in Sport Ireland, and I guess we within Sport Ireland we work with about 120 different sporting bodies, or SMEs almost, for the sports sector. So these are all small to medium-sized sporting development bodies that we fund and that administer and really run sport in Ireland, and that's our network. Each of those organisations, some of them small, some medium, many of them having employees. And indeed, for us within sport, they're extremely important that they are developing and performing to their highest level, and indeed incorporating some innovation ideas. So just from my point of view as innovation lead, and I suppose it's important for me to have reflected the importance of capacity building and some training within the area of innovation. And it's so important. I did a program myself in UCC a number of years ago, and that gave me the confidence to actually to push on. And I think innovation is like a lot of things. It's a bit like riding a bike. You need someone to give you some of those basic tips, that guidance at the very start to get you up and running. And once you've got the basics, you're away. And so I think that's an important place to kind of almost work from when you're thinking about capacity building programs in the area of innovation. So yeah, for sure. From my point of view, I was very keen that we would develop some capacity building program for our sector, to develop an accessible. The goal was to develop an accessible, high impact capacity building program in innovation for staff working in Irish sport bodies. And so, I guess another key thing that I wanted to do was if you like, deploy the design thinking mindset within the design of this program. So it was going to be centered around our audience, our participants, rather than my view or other people's assumptions. It had to be built for the organizations that we were targeting. And so next slide, please, Owen. So this slide, just again, this is, I'm not going to dwell on this one. It's a kind of a standard project management type slide. What did we do? What was involved here? And quickly, we obviously developed a brief, issued a RFQ type document, selected a project partner, program facilitator to work with on the program. So we had a good idea of what we wanted to do, but certainly we wanted to bring in a facilitator, and that process was usually that's the first stage of any project. Second stage, once you've got someone to work with and you've got it's the research and design phase of the program, and really this is a crucial stage, to really first of all understand who we're actually looking to target here. What's the actual what are their needs, what are their issues, what are their pain points, and build the program around that. This is particularly important for us because we're interacting with you know, all of these entities, they're all busy organizations. They're all usually staff pinched in that they've quite low staffing and quite a lot of pressure on them. And so, you know, they're time poor. And you know, we need to design a program that they're able to interact with without it actually taking up days of work, or indeed, you know, impacting on their other working activities. So all of these things are just hugely important to understand at this stage and build your program around that. From there, we were into the actual kind of really just the actual how we're presenting this program. So you're into the brand, you're into the actual the look and feel of it, and development of some resourcing around the program itself so that you can promote and recruit. So you're into that phase then of actually running the program. So once the actual running in this case was run over a 2-month period, 8 weeks, and indeed just one contact session per week. And then you're out the back end around issuing graduate certs, and then doing, you know, having an evaluation and tracking process to see what's worked well and see how it's gone. So that's the cycle we followed. And it took about probably, you know, say, you know, 9 months to actually put that plan into effect. Next slide, please, Owen. So just to give a quick overview as to what was contained within this innovation program, we basically designed it again just to be, I suppose, fairly efficient, but focusing on some of the key universal principles within the innovation space, introducing the design thinking mindsets, going through the different introducing the different modules such as customer discovery, ideation, brainstorming, how to actually go about some of these activities, understanding things like prototyping, testing, and then some really practical project, an applied project that participants could work with. So again, one session per week, interactive, non-formal, and so. Again, you know, I suppose we were certainly working in the COVID era here, and so again, running the program on a Zoom, you know, was the only option. But it proved to be really, really good. You were able to still get that level of interaction and engagement that you, by and large, would get, you know, on a you know, an in-person session, but really accessible as well. So I think, you know, really very easy for people to join from anywhere in the country and join for a 90-minute session once a week. So we had 20 participants from 18 different sporting bodies on the first program. And I guess another component of this particular program is that we incorporated certainly applied group project, but also a number of outside speakers from the sector. So innovation voices that we were able to identify and bring in to actually give a perspective and give some ideas and just contribute. And that was again a valuable addition. Next slide, please. So I suppose to quickly run down through, you know, we delivered this program back in March, April, and we've gone through, you know, an evaluation of that, an initial evaluation. Now we're now coming into a 3-month follow-up piece around the evaluation on it, just to see how the participants have actually used the program. But what worked, some of the things that stood out: a customized program for sport development sector. So I think, in general, a customized program that's targeted on the particular focus group that you're after is important. So in this case, we were looking at the development sector, quite different to even myself. I'm in the actual kind of I suppose administration sector more than the actual hands-on coal-face development sector, as it were, you know. So you know, important, designed to fit in around typically busy work schedules. That's crucially important. Done and dusted in 8 weeks. Intake limited to 20 on each program and no fee. So there was no charge, but we did ask for a commitment to actually, you know, to basically to engage and to participate in the 8 sessions, and indeed the group work. So we did look for a commitment like that. I think varied participant profile and variety of voices is important. This idea of running a training course for a particular internally is very different to running a program where you've got multiple voices from different sectors, and I think that's an important thing. So again, in our case, we only had a limit of 2 participants per any single organization. And again, the outside voices piece, guest contributors, you know, worked well. Next slide, please. So just a few other points. The group project work and presentation event. So we incorporated a group work which involved the actual participants working on a challenge and indeed presenting that, and that certainly brought a lot of the learnings and really embedded the actual the concepts and the principles so that they could actually apply it and do it and present those projects. And indeed they presented some excellent projects, if you like, in terms of identifying a challenge, working through the actual the customer discovery phase, the ideation and brainstorming stage, coming up with an excellent solution or a good solution, and then putting out a plan on how they might actually pilot and demo that solution. So really good. Again, just to say what worked. Again, this variety of participants working together, sharing experiences, learning from each other. Really important, just again bringing all of these different voices and an element of connection between sport bodies that oftentimes just work away in their own silos. Program facilitator. So in this case, we were, we certainly were looking for a, almost like a facilitator type role rather than a lecture, chalk and talk type approach. We wanted someone that would be able to actually listen well and have empathy with the sector. And so really getting a good program facilitator, that suited us was important. Obviously, like any program, I think within the space of, any particular topic, energy and enthusiasm from the delivery team is just probably the hidden sauce that really brings something to life. And really having people that really, really enthusiastic and engaged in the topic and really want to hear from the participants was, hugely important in any program. Finally, then the recognition and reward piece is, certainly something that recognizes the achievement and says well done to the participants. Really, really important. Next slide, please. So look at I've designed this program where we are looking to run again in September, October 2022, and we already have good demand and I suppose on the back of it, we are establishing, I suppose, what's called an Innovation Ambassadors Network, which in effect is a network for graduates and indeed other network other innovation project leads, where they can actually share experiences, and we can actually look to support these ambassadors as they go back into their organizations and lead on innovation projects. So something a bit similar to the Public Service Innovation Network, in the sense that it's there to support the single reps within their respective organizations. Yeah, we were certainly looking to rerun again in 2023 and 2024. My goal would be that we would have participants doing the innovation program across all sporting bodies that we fund, and it's directed right from, I suppose, development officer level right up through to CEO level. Anyone can actually do the program and will benefit from it. So again, I suppose I've been looking at this idea of iterating the Innovation Ambassadors program for Sport Ireland for staff, really, and really it's a slightly different focus here, but you're certainly, some of the universal themes are the same within the innovation space. But again, your focus group is slightly different, and their working environment and their challenges are slightly different. So you just have to, be cognizant of that. Certainly, we're looking to kind of register this program with CIPD Ireland. That's the Continuous Professional Development body, and so they will help us to be able to actually just place this, on their register, so that people can get CPD points for doing the program. And then finally, we're kind of looking at how this program might bolt on with some other, if you want to call it, learning, training, development programs that Sport Ireland does, to potentially make a larger award within sport development, leadership, and governance, for example. So this could well be a module of or a particular program, maybe one of 4 or one of 5 programs that might stitch together into a larger program. Next slide, please. So obviously, just touching on the theme for this particular this webinar, which is the potential for scaling up, and you could say in one sense, well, could I not have actually taken another program and actually just used that and kind of modified that? And And the answer, I'm not sure. In this case, this program, it could be customized and run for other sectors and for public sector bodies. There's no question about that. That's a program like this could easily be, and there's nothing stopping anyone from basically taking a program and going, oh, I'd like to look at that, and would and certainly from our point of view, we'd be very happy to engage and link in with anyone on that. The concepts that we're covering within this topic area are universal, but I suppose the delivery, the approach and the delivery is what's unique. And it's, how you set it up, your facilitator, and how you actually manage the groups and run the sessions. That's in a sense where the magic is. It's very, very difficult to replicate that, but you can certainly go a long way. Just to maybe make a point, that one thing that I found was that many innovation programs out there, I've done a few of them, are excellent, but they're long and they're drawn out. They take months to do. They sometimes are, maybe the focus is on an academic qualification, rather than quickly building confidence, giving the information people need, applied knowledge, and then really with the focus on implementation. So certainly the idea of doing a postgraduate diploma or doing a various different award is beyond the reach of a lot of SMEs in the sports sector, because of the time it takes, the funding, the finance it might take, and so on. So really, there wasn't that much out there that was able to deliver the actual, this program without too much drama into the sector. So just from a Sport Ireland point of view, Sport Ireland is very happy to explore the ideas around how this program might be shared and scaled with other bodies. We're very happy to interact and just give further information on that. And I think as maybe a final point, that public sector bodies like Sport Ireland could certainly benefit from collaborating more and actually kind of sharing programs, and not having to reinvent the wheel the whole time. And even though in this case, maybe there is another similar program that I was able to follow, but certainly from my point of view, I'd be very happy to share this content, with another entity, and I think we should be doing more of that. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that, Cormac. That's fantastic. Thanks very much for your time. I realize, guys, we're coming up on to 1 o'clock, so we'll keep the next bit Q&A session brief. And if you need to log off, just remember that this is being recorded, so you're more than welcome to check back in on it later. So just one or two questions for the panel. Thank you all again for your presentations, but I think we can all see probably commonality between the three, and that's the benefits of e-learning. So I might just delve into that a little bit. Bernie, with your project, you were saying earlier that IREC, you are the subject experts, which is fantastic. But trying to translate that into an online e-learning program can be quite difficult. Can you walk us through maybe the time frame it might take for trying to join the forces of tech expertise and subject matter experts together to try and get a workable product at the end? So time frame kind of for the e-learning module.
I would say from basic concept to launch, probably in the region of 18 months. And I suppose that's from the point of view of the prep work for IREC to say, well, what do we want included? What is it that we want? And then tendering process to get that expertise inside, and all the stages involved in testing, proofing, changing, making sure everything is exact, and that it works, and that it works for all of the people who we want to use it, and that the case studies are relevant to the audience, the case studies are legally and factually correct, so there may be bits involved in the development of the IREC module that wouldn't be involved in other e-learning tools. And I suppose from the point of view of the marrying of the tech and the human rights expertise, it was, we learned a lot from each other, essentially. And I know that I suppose they have learned a lot around accessibility and content for an audience from a quality and human rights perspective. And then we've learned a lot about you know, the level of work it takes to move a page from one page to the next and all the supporting content. So I would say from concept to launch, about 18 months. And that is what we've included piloting, which I think is very essential, and the road testing or the data analysis at the beginning, all of that prep work and testing work, and then the middle bit of the development.
So after 18 months, we have a question then from one of our attendees. 18 months later, a finished project, does IREC have any plans to develop any follow-up course specifically on how equality and human rights proof policies and legislation? So is there any follow-up courses then kind of envisaged for the immediate future? 18 months, I don't know whether you can say immediate future, but
yeah, well, I would say in the immediate future, no. But I do think the content of what you're talking about there on proofing and like we certainly are working on guidance and the development of guidance and resources, which is another part of our education brief. And I suppose as I said, the level of work involved in developing that e-learning tool is not like we don't have a huge team, so it's but as I say, it's an introduction. We find it's a good starting ground that we can then come in and support, the next step, which is well, how do you actually do all these things? How do you, when you've done your assessment, or if you want to make, and Pauline's example is perfect of, a jam card is a very practical solution to something that will inevitably come up in an assessment of human rights and equality issues in customer service. So at the minute, no, there's no plans, but there is plans and development happening around resources and guidance for those areas. But I suppose it's just the level of effort involved and time in e-learning. We're going to sit now and watch the impact of that, and we're already seeing that, where an organization is maybe pushing it within their own organization, and then it's throwing up other areas where they want support from IREC, which is great, and that's the whole intention of it.
That's great. No, certainly your hands are full for such a small team to try and get the entire public sector in line with public sector duty, which is no easy feat. Thanks.
Well, I suppose it's just one thing is where we say it's having that shared understanding, because a lot of people, many organizations, many staff are already implementing amazing work around equality and human rights. They just aren't linking it that it is actually in the context of the public sector duty. And this training will also allow people, oh, well, actually, this is something that we're doing. So people know, one of the big feedbacks we've got already is that people know a lot more about equality and human rights than they think
they actually do. That's very true. Thanks for that, Bernie. And just picking up on what you were saying there then about the jam card, we have a question for Pauline. I know kind of the video kind of stressed even the practicalities of in-person kind of communication barriers and how it can often assist with overcoming these issues. But can the jam card be used or adapted for online services, Pauline? Or if not, is that something you could foresee taking place in the future?
They have a jam card app now, but for online services, well, I suppose at the moment in the court service and the modernisation programme, part of it is looking at how we deliver our services. So in the areas of, say, like family law and family information, they are applying the design thinking methods, and they're going back and exactly getting that sort of thing, the insights from their users. And if that's something that comes up, and if that's something that can be overcome, that will be looked at. But when we approached the Now group, it was the app and the card that were on offer. Now, like, they're a very helpful organisation. If that is something that somebody is interested in following up with, we can certainly give details of the Now group, or they're easily found on the web. So
that's great. Thanks very much for that, Pauline. It's very easy basically for any organisation to actually sign up and integrate the jam card into their working effectively.
Yeah, unlike Bernie, we didn't have to develop the content. We didn't develop content for our own courses, but this was a buy off the shelf Very simple. You can put it into your own learning management system, or you can buy it, and they will actually set you up to do the training courses. And because I suppose in COVID we had introduced online or e-learning training, it wasn't as difficult then to roll it out because that concept was out there. Staff, were already engaged with online training. So.
That's great. That's great. Thanks very much for that, Pauline. And finally,
to make an observation on that, I think it's a really good example of a scale up. You've got a centralized, we say, charity that's developed the Jam card, and in a sense, they've actually done the work, which is actually developing the product, the service, the actual idea, and now they're actually scaling that out to entities. And that's exactly what what we want to see happening. And I think there's definitely a nugget of learning there. I think there's a lot more of that could be happening. Yeah.
No, just coming onto yourself then, Cormac, saying basically, I appreciate that your work is obviously sport oriented, but it's basically the way that what struck me when I was going through your presentation is that the Innovation Ambassadors program is quite universal, you were saying, in its approach. So it is fairly scalable and easily transferable to other organizations. Just one thing I liked kind of in how you are conducting the Ambassadors program is the use of facilitator instead of a lecturer. It kind of suggests that participants have a lot to offer, as opposed to more of a traditional, I suppose, classroom-based approach where you are learning but this is more learning from each other. So in a sense, you're probably transferring knowledge within the innovation, the sports innovation arena. Would you recommend that approach then for non-sporting public sector bodies to be more kind of scaling and transferring even within their own learning networks, as opposed to having more linear traditional classroom-based learning?
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt that my training or learning kind of philosophy is around, basically interactive learning by doing. And, I think that is it at the heart of innovation. Certainly the whole area of innovation is all about kind of, it's all about collaboration. It's all about people connecting, brainstorming ideas. And the facilitator role, is far more important rather than the actual the traditional kind of I'm lecturing, I'm imparting the knowledge. Can you listen and take notes? That doesn't work. Innovation is a practical discipline. It's a very much a hands-on kind of identify problems, speak to people. Develop some ideas, share those ideas, get used to sharing. And so it's a different, in many cases, it's a shift in the mindset and the working practice of a lot of people. There's a lot of things that you actually have to adjust to really to get interactive on problems, to be able to work in, brainstorming, harvest ideas in groups, to be able to actually kind of select and identify winning ideas in a democratic way, and so there's loads of these little skills, and you can only do it by actually practically doing it, and so that's why you're in that facilitator space, and that's why I certainly, the traditional kind of listen and learn approach is okay, but for certain things. But it certainly doesn't work in my book for innovation, and certainly applying some of the ideas like design thinking in a particular sector. Obviously you can apply that to any particular sector at all. In my case, it's just development. The developments within sport, or indeed participation or inclusion in sport, or all those things, all those areas that we look at. But it's the same principles and approach that should apply to any particular sector.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that. Having worked in innovation thus far, I think absolutely cross collaboration is the key to any development in this arena. I wholeheartedly agree. I'm conscious of the time, guys. I know apologies for taking extra time than initially stated. Just to thank the three speakers today for their time, their presentations. Three fantastic projects, genuinely trying to advance Irish human rights in the public sector, trying to meet our customers where and how they they need it most, and trying to come up with new ways to engage with cross collaboration with other organisations. All three fantastic projects, and we'll be sure to send out the resources in an email to the entire network thereafter, with the recording of this event. And just to say that next time we will see you will be September, so be sure to rest up over summer, enjoy your annual leave, and come back with fresh heads, no doubt, and fresh ideas come September. And pretty soon you'll be hearing from us about Innovation Week in 2022, so keep your eyes peeled. Thank you very much, guys. All the best. Take care.
Okay, thank you.